Hey Church fam, it's John, Omar, and Kyle's behind the camera, and this is the Divine Hustle Show for church creators. Collectively, we have over 3 decades helping the local church from full-time paid staff positions at a megachurch to being a part of a local church plant as unpaid volunteers. And our heart is to equip the local church, reach more people with their creativity. So whether you're on staff at a church or you're a volunteer, this podcast is for you. In today's episode, we're going to talk about what Divine Hustle means to us and the 5 pillars of what we're building Divine Hustle on.
Yep. Thanks so much for listening. And I guess we can go straight to it. Divine Hustle essentially is this idea, and sometimes we can have a misconception of what it means to, work. A lot of times work and grace and all this stuff kind of gets confused. Yeah. But we found that legit, God blesses work. Yeah. God blesses hard work. Right. God blesses, when you work your field, when you work your land. And we found that it's this idea that we do what we can do, and God will do what we cannot do. That's right. We have this also mentality of this 200% thing. Like, whenever we put our hands to something, we're going to do it like it's up to us, and then we're going to pray like it's up to God. That's right. And collectively, we can achieve 200%. And we actually want to create like probably a shirt one of these days that just literally says 200, 200%. Like the 100 emoji. Yeah. That's fire. But yeah, that's kind of like the heart. I think I just don't, I would say like one of my pet peeves, and I love small groups. Small groups like my life. Like me and my wife oversee the small groups at City Light, and I love it. I love the discussions, but sometimes it does reveal a lot of what people's perspective is on waiting, or even like their perspective on their call on their life, or what they're supposed to do in life. And I would say Erwin McManus is kind of like the opposite, and when it comes to thinking this way, that I'm just waiting for my calling. I'm waiting for God to show me what to do. I'm waiting. When like I would say, I think God just wants us to go. Like, just go for it. Just try the thing. Just mess up. Do the stuff. Use with what you have. Take that first step. And He'll bless as you move. Like I wrote this down last year. Like my family, we have like a theme every year, and it was just simply like walk. Like this idea of walking in obedience. But I wrote this down. It's like when you begin to walk, that's when God begins to work. And that's kind of just the reality. It's just this is a partnership. We are in a partnership with God in whatever you're doing in life. Like, don't do anything alone. Don't try to even lead God from doing it, but do it alongside. God wants to do this with you. And so that's even just the heart in general of Divine Hustle, is that it's this partnership with God, and it's not excusing the fact that we cannot work hard. We could definitely work hard, and that God would bless that hard work.
Yeah, eventually it's God giving us the strength, energy, innovation, that mindset. He's the one that inspires us to continue to work. Every single breath that we take is from God, and He wants to continue to fuel that creativity, fuel that inspiration, and continue to use us to bless and impact others. So that's definitely something that like we take to heart, and definitely is like the foundation of what we do.
And what's so cool, and what's been so cool about City Light, I would say for all 3 of us, there's just been this approach to it on a very mature, like we just feel way more mature in our roles for the church, and just like our approach. I would say, we all previously have had our experiences with church where we got burnt out, and we take full responsibility of that burnout. Which, by the way, if you feel burnt out, take ownership of that. Yeah. It's not your pastor. It's you either not communicating enough, or it's you not protecting yourself. Rest is real, and I'm not saying to get lazy, but if you're feeling burnt out, the likelihood is you're trying to do your own thing, or you're trying to do something, and
you don't want to take the ownership sometimes. Like I've heard a lot of like, oh, it's bad leadership or bad whatever. It's like,
bro, that's all you, bro.
Properly? Like what resources do you need to fulfill your volunteer like work, or what you need to serve? If you're the one only spending the money on bringing 2-3 dozen donuts to church in the morning, no one asks you to do that. You're just kind of like put a expectation on yourself
Right.
to, I'm the guy that brings the donuts, and like, you know, maybe you had like a tough financial seat and you're like, why am I the one always, you put that on yourself, sorry.
Yeah. Self-inflicted frustrations, man. But all that to say, I say that because I could speak for myself in this. I'm able to do more for City Light Church than I've been able to do when I was paid full-time staff to do one job. And I think that comes just because of my perspective. You know, number one, I ask God to increase my capacity, and then I don't complain when I feel overwhelmed. And then I also ask God to give me margin. I don't only want to be a financial contributor to the church, but I also want to be I want my hands to be used at the church. I want to be a part of building the church on beyond just like a financial thing.
And here's the thing too. Like, if you are on staff at a church, like, energy management is huge. You know, there's a lot of times where like there's a lot of expectations that your pastor or leaders put on you as a staff member, and you kind of get burned out because you feel like you have to fulfill those roles. But you gotta understand, being on staff for just volunteering, you choose where to open up those margins in your life where you're like, where you find the energy. Like, where do you get energy from? Is it from being with people, or is it by being by yourself and just cuddling up and reading a book? Like, where do you get that energy from? And we really honestly hope that this is an opportunity to help you discover what that is, and help you not get burned out, but give you also the tools and resources for you to go further faster.
But like, legit. So I would say hustle without its divinity will run dry, will be burned out. But when you couple it with what God's, I guess you could say God breathed hustle, divine hustle, you get to operate in a place of 200%. And so that's our transition. And I hope that resonates with you. But our transition into how we actually are going to do that, we have kind of, based off of what we can help with, the three of us, Kyle Anderson, Omar Altakori, John Mediana, we felt like we can help with 5 different areas when it comes to churches, and help as much as we can. And obviously, as this grows and as time goes on, we will evolve and things could change, but we're hoping that we would change, we would get better and all those things. Change is awesome. Change is the only constant, friend.
Bam.
But the first thing is church production. We want to tackle your Sunday service, the service flow, how the countdowns from the slides and ProPresenter and sound and sermon capturing, and broadcasting, and along those lines, church production. I would say sometimes I think one of those things that just hit a ceiling at some point, and you don't really try something new, and things like that. So we want to help with your service or your church production. And then the second thing we want to tackle is worship. And a lot of this is like Kyle, has a lot of experience in the worship sector where it comes to backtracking, or how to make worship sound more fuller. Is that even a word? Fuller? Yeah, making your
big.
Like, dude, it's so cool. Before City Light, we kind of were just helping a lot of other churches in the city, in Vegas. And, one of the churches here in town maybe had a band of like 3 people. And they asked Kyle if he can help. And he like went in and helped. And I went to the service. I was like, bro, this sounds like there's 10 people on stage. And like, you might be in that position where and that's another thing we want to help with. But if you are low on help, you could still achieve a great product, I guess you could say. So, I mean, in worship, Kyle's going to have your back on that. And we'll also always bring people on too, to talk about certain aspects of these things.
Or like ProPresenter,
ProPresenter,
lighting, all that stuff adds to that worship experience,
The third pillar is going to be social. And so social is kind of just how you use these free platforms to engage with your church throughout the week, to present yourself in a good way, because now your social media platforms are now your website. No longer are people going on the websites and making a decision whether they're going to come to church or not. They're looking at your Instagram grid, they're looking at your Facebook, they're watching a sermon or 2, and then they're making the decision to step through your guys' doors. So like, what are you doing Monday through Saturday on social media? What are you doing on Sunday? How are you using Sunday to fulfill your Monday through Saturday? Because obviously when church ends on Sunday, it's, it's all for yourself. You got to go fend for yourself. And so reverse engineering your Sunday so that it can actually work your week on a social standpoint.
And we also believe that church, when you first start a church, you automatically have two campuses. One is your physical campus where you meet up and you congregate, right? And you worship together. The other campus is your online campus.
Right.
Like everything that's online about your church, that's what your brand is and what the church brand is and what people see about your community, about your culture. And that's when they make the decision whether or not they want to show up on your actual campus or not. So it's so important because we believe that the local church has the greatest message on planet Earth.
100.
That will help free people, right? The message of Jesus. And to have that greatest message and not have a platform to share that message, it's just so key in 2019 or today, whenever, if you're listening to this in 2019, 2020, 2025, like it's just so key to understand that there are two different campuses and one is online campus for sure. And that's with social media.
And I think just a power tip, as before we go to the next thing, when it comes to social, I think this helped somebody when I was just in conversation with him. He was doing social media for his youth ministry. And I said, man, just the perspective you can have for your social media platforms is simply pastoring the kids through the social media platform. So whatever that looks like, fill it in. That's the creative lid, I guess you could say. Is I keep saying lid a lot in this podcast. That's your way of running free. Is how can we pastor this our followers? Like I think a misconception with using the platforms is for information rather than like stewardship. Like you're just like, hey, come to this, come to that, come to this, come to that. We have this going on, we have that going on. Versus like, hey, what worship song are you just on rotation right now? Hey, what's your favorite Bible verse that what verse are you standing on right now for your family? Like, a pastor, could we sit down and shoot 10 2-minute clips so we can drop those, once a day for 2 weeks and just quick devotion? Like, how can you pastor your church through your social media platform? But we're going to help with those ideas and how that can kind of look like. And so, the fourth thing is going to be
creative.
Creative will be kind of like your testimonials, your conference promos,
your
conference recaps or event recaps, baptisms,
all that kind of stuff.
How to outside of the Sunday service, like how to use video that would work on Sunday, but also work on those social media platforms. And so, creative is kind of like that flow of stuff, just cool videos and things like that. And I think the last thing is very important, probably the one that's not as emphasized as much when it comes to church, and that is
strategy.
Strategy
is huge because, again, we have this amazing message, but if no one's listening or no one knows where to find this message, right? If it's not discoverable, no one's gonna hear it, and like that message could change someone's life and reach somebody in a most impactful way. But again, if there's no strategy behind it, like whether it's paid ads or organic reach or how you title a message or how to find all these things, then you're kind of like it's kind of just creating something and no one's watching it.
Right. Yeah. And I think part of that strategy, I don't mean strategy all the time. We don't mean that as in like Facebook ads and Instagram ads, which is cool. And you could probably learn very like surface level, awesome stuff for those things. But it's like the strategy to decide to post our sermon on YouTube versus Vimeo or our own archive system on our website. Because people are on YouTube, why don't we just put it on YouTube? Things like that. Like the strategies don't always have to mean, those things like Facebook ads, but it could also mean like your content calendar, like strategies so that you can do everything you need to do on Monday, social media wise, so you can focus on everything else Tuesday through Friday. Those are also along the lines of strategy, and things like that. So we're
my favorite strategy is thinking mobile first. Right. Like we live in a mobile first culture.
Right. Are you still taking photos holding the camera this way? Turn it, man. Like this. Turn the camera sideways. No, legit. Like I think this is a decision every church kind of has to make. Is we're gonna start doing the way we're gonna capture content is gonna be like 75-25, 80-20. Like for 75% of the time, we're going to take photos vertical, we're going to shoot videos vertical, and 25% of the time, we're going to do horizontal pictures and horizontal videos.
Why is that important?
It's important because like that's just the I think the language we. Number one, I mean, how about if you're gonna, okay, you're asking me that question, so I'm gonna answer that question. Number one is I love this term, but it's screen real estate. Yeah. Are you like, I would say this is a stewardship question. Like we have if you have the ability to do something, but you come up halfway, did you steward that decision? Did you steward that process? So the reason why we really prioritize vertical everything is because it takes up most of your phone. And again, the commodity is attention. We're trying to get the attention of our people. We're trying to get the attention. We're trying to break, if we can get 2 more seconds than everybody else can, then cool, we just got 2 seconds. But a lot of the time that comes by standing out, and you can do that by taking up more of people's screens. And so, yeah, like when we cut up, yes, the sermon is filmed horizontal, but when we cut up social clips, it's 1080 by 1350. When we take pictures, it's posted long form, and it's for stories, because stories is long form. And so, dude, when I see these carousels of horizontal, I'm like, dude, all you had to do is I would rather you square it than post it, horizontal.
That's like using the least amount of real estate, but also like another pet peeve. I mean, for mine, if you don't know that 80% of the world is using sound off, like they don't really have, like they'll turn on the sound, you'd probably want to add closed captioning to your sermons or closed captioning to your post, because people read a lot more.
Dude, the workflow we kind of have right now as far as like micro clips and stuff is Pastor Jabin will kind of he'll email me time codes of the sermon that that we chose to go with for the YouTube channel, and I would cut up those, it would be 2 or 3, one for the church, one for his account, and I used to just simply post it, and then I could feel myself. I could feel our content not, hitting as hard as everybody else's. Right. And so now I take the time. Yeah. I take the time to caption at least 60 seconds. If it exceeds 60 seconds, that's okay. You won somebody at the time they hit, I watch this on IGTV or whatever, but at least the first 60 seconds, take the extra 15 minutes and caption whatever you're posting on Instagram or Facebook. It just little things like that. Those are strategy tips that don't necessarily have to do with money more than it does with maybe just a little bit of time or a little bit of intentionality. But yeah, just those are the 5 pillars that we really feel like we can help your church with. But again, I think more than anything, we can't do this without your input. That's right. Our heart is to build a community of creatives. Our heart is to build a community of people who want to help the local church, Big C church. And but I mean, I also know I'm very straight up. But there's also this selfish aspect to it, that legit take what we're saying for your church. Take what other people are saying,
reformat it.
Do what you got to do to make it work for your church, because that's the heart for this whole thing, is that your church would be better because of something you kind of learned from us. But yeah, the way to do that, though, is literally DM us any questions or any concerns, any pain points you have. That's at Divine Hustle on Instagram, or you can go on divinehustle.com. And we really want to build this podcast based off of your pain points and your questions, and ultimately kind of even meet you. We want to know the people that this is resonating with, and we kind of would know that based off of your response or your questions that you send in. And I even think building relationships. I can see 2 years from now us going to your church and meeting you and saying, dude, it's so crazy. It's been 2 years, and I remember when you first asked that question, but like, look what you guys been able to do. That's pretty sweet. Meeting you at conferences and things like that. So yeah, be in our DMs. You could slide on through, homies.
Slide in thick.
But we hope you appreciate that. We really hope this resonates with you. And if it does, why don't you hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. If you aren't subscribed to the YouTube channel, subscribe it as well. You can hit the bell so you get notified when we drop videos. And we're going to do our best to be consistent. We're going to do our best to stick to a schedule, whether that be Tuesdays and Thursdays for video drops or Mondays and Wednesdays. We'll do our best. But
best.
Other than that, we hope that you have an awesome week, and we will catch you in the next podcast. Peace.